Right, let's go on. So on my good point, what's funny is people are going to think this is some like Richard having to be nice on the fucking desk in that moment. It's not. If you ever go back in time, you've all done the same thing you're doing to Maui now, where you tell him that other people's opinions were his. But the worst thing is, it's one thing if you say mine are, at least we're on the same show quite often, right? This, even though, by the way, we disagree quite a lot on Hot Take Point made. But the point is, no one ever even had this take. Like, I actually think HooXi on Astralis is just a good. There's no downside to it. It's just good, mate. Like, and by the way, he even did that bullshit thing, which will never hold, which has even had a couple of top frag performances, which doesn't make any sense, by the way. He is actually, to the eye test, even in those games, a fucking trash can player who's in no universe ever going to actually... so don't even start me on, like, he's a fucking IGL. He's just an IGL. Just leave it at that. You know what? I'll give him that. He's an IGL. My problem always, and I have always said this, was it wasn't even, by the way, the idea he couldn't be the IGL of G2. He just can't be the IGL of G2 when they had what, for me, was like an all-star team, which I actually think that 2023 G2, if you have like a truly great IGL, that would have had an era and like won the majors and stuff, mate. Like, it's a bit like Wire last year. I told you I was so hard on Vitality. I look at their roster, I'm like, mate, you guys probably have the best roster. How have you only got one trophy? The fuck is this? So my issue always there was like, I essentially think he had almost the best job in Counter-Strike, and then he was doing like, you know, ho-hum results at like giant tournaments, and then he just won those like 2 or 3 tournaments, which is cool. But the problem with that one is, like, it's okay. Every time you win one tournament in 6 months, it's technically enough. But then, as I say, when you have a super roster like that, you probably need to win like 5 tournaments or 10 tournaments or something, or do something truly all time, because you did have Monosine, Eco, etc. By the way, everyone who's going to now tell me that kicks in and like Sonic, yeah, but you had fucking Eco and Monosine, so did fucking HooXi. So remember that when you're glazing HooXi. But I will say, like, I actually think, if anything, I'll go the other way. I actually think Astralis, now that they've like gone so badly this year, he's probably overqualified to be their in-game leader. I'm kind of shocked by some of the response where people were like, oh, wow, and it's just because of money or something. Like, this is better than fucking cadiaN. What are we talking about? Yeah. Like, this is, at least for this roster, I can have like some hope they could get good. And also, I'll throw this out there. If this Astralis ends up still being a bit scuffed, because I don't think it's the right roster personally, it's not HooXi you remove. If anything, you use HooXi to see which parts of the roster are wrong and replace that. And then you could have a really good team. Like, maybe you need one more player in this team, but it wouldn't be HooXi I would remove. So I actually think it was a slam dunk to sign this player to Astralis. I even think you could even argue the fact that Astralis themselves have been so bad competitively recently actually gives him a little bit of breather room when he joins the team. He's not really expected to be like the 3rd best IGL in the world like tomorrow or something. And I think everyone right now, if you're an Astralis fan, you'll just take whatever results you can get. It's been so long since you could really believe. Like, that 3rd place at that PGL, that was a while ago now, and also it was one of the not as great field ones, so I don't think anyone really lives off that. So if you wanted to actually see Astralis ever be decent again, this is actually like the way back, in my opinion. So I think HooXi on Astralis is a good point. I'm just going to say that he's a solid leader. I also think what people underestimate, sadly, is I think when he was in that G2 team, it did look in that G2 a bit like with Smacks, that they just run a lot of really loose strats, and then the fucking stars make the mid-round calls. I actually do know that HooXi can do way more than that in the game. And I think with this team, he will get to. Because if you notice, the one thing about Astralis is, they are very dangerous in this. They look like they actually want people to tell them the strat to do and to be the IGL. They don't actually want to just play fucking like FPL CS. That's not really the Danish approach. So I actually think he will get his proper chance in this team. So, Freya, where you at on HooXi on Astralis?
No, I think impressive what we've seen so far. I didn't manage to catch like too much of each of the games, but like really obviously great that they've made it to playoffs. Just because you mentioned Richard Lewis, Maui, I think you were on the desk when HooXi came on for the interview?
Not at this event, no.
Okay. I just think like shout out to Richard Lewis for being like just so
pro,
like open and like like that was like a truly like always have like so much respect for him, but like proper class out from him of just like being really open, because HooXi is a type of player that I think will give that back to you, right? Like obviously there's a balance to be struck when you're maybe speaking to other players that don't have like maybe the charisma or on camera presence, but I think just in that moment, like that was a really cool interview to watch from him. And really goes a long way in embellishing the storylines. But yeah, I think just overall in terms of the HooXi move, I think it makes a lot more sense than having cadiaN on that roster. I think when that happened, what was it, before Blast Copenhagen last year? And obviously that whole fiasco with actually having him play in the tournament and everybody being like, does this make sense just in terms of, character and personalities? Does this even make sense for this Astralis roster? I'm curious as to where, I don't know whether you have any thoughts on this, Mario, as to where, like, does cadiaN go anywhere? Like, what's the situation with him now? Like, where's he left?
Is there anywhere Torin goes? Well, I wonder. Like, it doesn't feel like there's an obvious location, does there?
The obvious location for cadiaN, in my eyes, is he takes Dust's desk job.
Reasonable, okay. What would be sad as well is that even, by the way, we're joking now, that even is how the esports industry works. It does doing a great job doing all his homework, but then you would just go, yeah, but cadiaN's available. Like, that's actually how esports works, sadly. That is almost the meme version of my horror story about that show match where it's like, I was supposed to be in a show match, and they were like, yeah, but we could just get Zeus last minute. Like, cheers, like, fuck my chopped liver, like, give me a break. Like, that's what that feels like, but that is what will happen. So, you'll get replaced too, don't worry.
It's just funny when it's Dust. It's just funny. I can't. I'm going to refuse to further explain, but
okay.
Yeah, it's just funny if it's Dust. Yeah. I don't. I think that cadiaN actually. It kind of sucks, but I think that cadiaN actually has to really go down a level. I think he has to pull what he kind of has to build himself up again, like he did in North America with Rogue. I don't see really another. I'm not saying he has to go to NA, but I think that he has to go to a tier 2 team. I don't really see any team that's in the top 20, maybe 25 having a significant value for him. A weird and funny landing place is if Big decides to go international or something and then like change their direction completely, but that's just spitballing. That's completely.
That's not a terrible one, though. That's not. If you're trying to think ones where it'd be like plausible to bring him in, that's not that. But here's the problem, Maui. I really think the problem he has. Put it this way. Let's contrast him with HooXi. The difference with HooXi is, I do think actually everyone except just fanboys and cadiaN do think at least he had some quality when he was in like G2 and Copenhagen Flames, and they knew it just like maybe that was just too big a team. He needs a small. The problem cadiaN has is this. Right now he's destroyed his whole identity because he's not the AWPer anymore. No one's recruiting him to do that job, and then he was actually really terrible when he wasn't the AWPer in IGL. So I think in some ways he doesn't actually have the same IGL archetype, Maui. Like, if you think of a normal IGL, you never expected them to be a fragger or an AWPer anyway. So I think cadiaN, the problem is he almost has to figure out, like, is he an AWPer again and go somewhere and do that if he's going to? Because I don't know anyone that's going to pick him up to be a non-AWPer. So that's why I think he's checkmated, mate. I think he's sort of fucked.
I mean, the thing that I want to bring up in terms of actually how HooXi's improved this team, though, is something
we should make this about HooXi, actually, not just about cadiaN. Never get a job again.
Yeah. Is just that I've one thing that was very frustrating about watching cadiaN on Astralis was just how horrendous he was at playing this rifle MP9 CT side guy. Like, he was really bad at it, and you want to just take what an IGL does and think, well, if he's calling well, he should just do his job. The problem is he actually was failing so badly at being a CT side player, and that's part of being an in-game leader. Sure. Like, if you want to be a coach and a caller, that you could help the team like that in a different aspect, but no, he was, again, this was something I said probably a few tournaments in watching him. I was like, this is the worst MP9 I have seen in Tier 1 Counter-Strike. And the thing is that HooXi, yes, he's not the best fragger ever, but he's capable of playing a CT side and playing off of a teammate and understanding that he's not the one that's being set up for kills, but he knows how to set people up. And even sometimes he can pop off with a good round if the setup's good enough for him. Like I remember specific rounds when watching HooXi on G2 where he would shuffle smokes over, have good flashes and everything like that, and he gets the kills he's supposed to. Like, he just gets what he's supposed to get. But cadiaN legitimately wouldn't get the kills that people are flashing him to get, like fully blind targets. cadiaN would just miss with an MP9. And from this group stage already, HooXi on CT side is one of the highest rated CT side players. He's got a 1.16 on CT sides. I'm going to just go out on a limb with doing no research at all on this, and people can tell me if I'm wrong in the comments. I don't think cadiaN had a single tournament the entire time he was with Astralis with a 1.16 on CT.
Oh, side. Very likely. That is very likely.
Yeah, that is a legitimately good performance. And I did see HooXi get multi-frags around smokes. I saw him get he had some multi-kills against, I forgot who, on Dust 2. He was like weaving around smokes at the A bomb site, like just playing around them. He did some pretty cool stuff, like just as an individual. And I was like, wow, that's already better than I've ever seen cadiaN do. So eye test wise, checks out. T side, I'm not really too sure if he's actually doing a much better job yet, but I know that he's only practiced them for a week. I did hear in an interview, didn't he say in the interview that he kind of threw out their ancient playbook after it didn't work for them for the first couple times. Then he just started calling more on the fly, and then they actually were better when he called on the fly. Like, I mean, I think he's got a better. I don't know. I'll say this. I don't know who the better T-side caller, pure caller is between HooXi and cadiaN is today, but I know for a fact that HooXi is a better CT side in-game player than cadiaN, and that to me is already good enough because cadiaN was actually a losing condition too frequently for Astralis in the past.
Also, by the way, when I say HooXi's like a bad idea, I just mean in terms of skill. I actually do think if you watch cadiaN, that was an example of not just the stats, but even eye test wise, it looked really bad when he would just have like gunfight skills, Maui. Like HooXi is like low skilled, but he actually goes for the normal shots. He can actually hit them, etc. Like I don't have any issue with that. It's just obviously he's like a low frag in IGL. It's all good.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.